Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on episode 3 of Faith in Action series, where we've been exploring how sports ministry can be a game-changing tool for your church. Today is our final episode, episode 3, and today we're going to talk about the impact of sports ministry and how your church can be the neighborhood church. We know that it's all about stories and real life transformation. And so I'm here to help highlight through real life examples, through churches just like yours that can use upward sports to create a lasting impact in your community. So let me introduce you to our 3 guests today. Our first guest we have is Michael Davidson, and Michael is with Faith Community Church in Oklahoma. Hey, Michael, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
We also have John Keating. John is with the Naz Church in Grove City, Ohio. Hey, John.
Hey, Jennifer. Good to see you.
Thanks for joining. And then we have Clint Augustin. Clint is with Desert Grace Community in Arizona. Hey, Clint. Thanks for joining.
Happy to be with you today.
Let's jump in, guys. We're going to talk about what it means to be the neighborhood church. I know all 3 of you do an amazing job in your community. And so for anyone that's listening in, I hope you'll listen to their stories, their real life examples of how they are being the neighborhood church and their little pieces of the pie around the country. So let's talk about our first topic, if you want to call it that, which is what it actually means to be the neighborhood church. If you're on here listening, a neighborhood church is more than just a building. I like to think of it as a hub for the community. It's where connection takes place and discipleship ultimately takes place as well. For me, as a past league director, sports ministry created a reason for families to step onto your church grounds. And oftentimes they step onto your sports turf or your gym before they actually step into a Sunday service. So this is where the long-term impact takes place. One thing I want to leave you with in this section before we ask some questions is when a church becomes the go-to place for fun, faith, and family, it becomes a place where the gospel is lived out daily. So I want to open this first section, guys, to what does being a neighborhood church mean to you, and how have you seen it lived out in your community?
Yeah, Jennifer, I'd love to get that started and say that the opportunity to welcome people onto our campus is something that we strive to do, not just on Sundays, but every day of the week. Just as much as churches are trying to put their best foot forward on Sunday mornings, we try to do that every single day of the week because we count it a privilege to be a part of their lives every single day of the week. People are looking for a place that feels like home, and often we want our churches to be a church home, and home is not a place we go to one time a week. It is a place that we're at every single day. And so with that mindset, we strive to be a place that receives people throughout the week, but also is prepared for them when they come onto our campus. A welcome, energized spirit that is one that shows Christ's love from the time they pull into our property to the time that they're leaving. We want to be a place where they spend some of their life's biggest moments, celebrations, best quality time of their week on our campus. And that happens so frequently when they show up for our sports practices, our sports leagues, outside of Sunday morning.
I love that. I've been to your campus, and let me just say, I felt it was a great place of belonging. It was energized. I love it. I could definitely see those core moments or core memories taking place there. So let me ask another question I was thinking about is, why do you think sports can be or is a powerful connection tool for churches that are looking to engage? Why is that?
I can maybe start an answer with that one. I think, the thing with sports, it's no secret that everybody loves sports. And, if you talk to people you just walk the neighborhood and talk to people, they're going to talk about what the high school football team's doing, what the high school basketball team's doing, and what the city leagues are doing. And sports is just a common thing that brings people together in every community. And it's just it's really a perfect tool to use to reach people, for the church to reach people. It's something that almost everybody has in common. Almost everybody somehow is involved in sports. I don't know the numbers, but I know the percentages are really, really high on how people are involved in one way or another in sports. And so sports is just a great tool. It's a great connecting mechanism that we all share in one way or another. And so it's just a great way for us to start conversations and say, hey, we've got a sports program at our church. I'd love to tell you about it. And I'd love to tell you about our league and what we're doing with it. And man, we'd love to have your kids come play. It's just a great way to start conversation and connect with people. So it's a great tool. And it's been a great tool for us here in Poto to just connect with people.
I'd like to add something to that as well, that where we are geographically, there's a city league, but the city league's about 12 to 15 miles away. It's the closest place that they can go to. And then on the other side of us from the city is a lot of very rural communities. So we are able to provide something for our neighborhood, our unique community that isn't offered anywhere else, and has been an incredible pathway to lead people to Jesus and to get them involved within the church. Not even necessarily our church all the time, but within the church, if you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Because we were able to provide a place for people who there's not a lot of churches in those smaller communities, and they were able to come in and get connected, sometimes even with each other.
I love that. So let me ask this. What about an obstacle or a barrier? I know there's people on here that are probably listening saying, I face an obstacle or a barrier. Did you guys face any kind of obstacle or barrier in starting sports ministry? Or what do you see around the country even as a barrier that causes people to not be the neighborhood church?
Wow.
Anybody think about what an obstacle could be?
I know
there's a lot of preconceived notions of what the church's goal may be in hosting a league. There's unfortunately some people that maybe think a sports league won't provide competition or quality instruction on the athletic side. And boy, I can attest that all of those are inaccurate. We are able to open honestly a place that celebrates each and every kid, celebrates the family unit being together, that promotes a safe place for them to play, but also to grow and develop in their skills. One of the best things we have as churches is space, and people are looking for safe spaces for their kids to be involved, to use the good health and abilities God has given them, and use the universal language of sports, as Michael was saying. It is crossing all different demographics, culturally, socially, economically. It is something that unifies us more than it divides us. And there is a great unifier that happens, that when kids are donning a jersey with other kids in the community, and boy, being unified together sounds a whole lot like the message of Christ.
I love that. And I totally agree. It unifies, does not divide. Sports creates that bridge, right, into the community. I will give you that stat, Michael. It's 98%. So if you're listening here, 98% of people walk it, talk it, watch it, sports every single day in America. 98% is high. I mean, think about kids. They're in PE every day, around across the country. So there is sports there. How many of us right now, March Madness, are on our phones or looking at our brackets? So sports creates a connection tool. Absolutely. I so agree with that. Let me ask this last question in this segment before we go to the next one or the topic. How have you guys seen a shift in how your church engages with the community since launching a sports ministry?
I think for us, it just opened up new avenues for our members to engage the community. Again, because it's such a common denominator. 98% of people are involved in sports. And I think it just opened up new doors and new pathways to have conversation and encourage people to engage. And it gave them something to talk about. Like, it's very easy for me, just hypothetically speaking, it's very easy for me to walk up and start talking to another guy about sports because I know he's going to like sports. Where it may be more difficult to walk up and start talking about the gospel or things of that nature. So it provides, like you said a while ago, a bridge, and it provides a way into other conversations. And I think that's one way it's helped us, is it's encouraged our people to engage the community more because they have that common denominator they can use to start conversations and bridge that gap.
I totally agree. Mobilizing congregation is key. And so I love that. Who else was going to say something?
I was going to say that one of the things it really did for our church is helped us to be seen in our community.
Oh,
we
absolutely.
were no longer just a building. We were no longer just we don't really understand what goes on there. It turned us into a place where they knew they could come.
Yeah.
I love that.
I enjoy being out in town, I'll be at Walmart or somewhere, and some kid will walk up and is like, "Hey, you're the Upward pastor." Yep, that's me. Or you're from the Upward Church. I'm like, "Yep, that's me."
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
And they will not forget that. They will not forget that. I mean, my husband and I were league directors. Man, we started it like 10, 12 years ago. And somebody graduated high school. And when we see them out there still like, "Hey, that's my Upward coach." And we're like, man, that's years removed, but that is such an impact for sure. So let's go to our second topic. So we talked about what it means to you to be a neighborhood church, but this second one is, I want us to talk about real stories of impact. You guys are leading these sports ministries in your community. And so I really want us to relay here how this impact, what it looks like. For me, I think of the ripple effect, and you've heard this so many times, where one life is impacted and then it extends to the player, then maybe the coach, then maybe the parent, maybe the sibling, maybe even a teacher that just came to watch this child play and that was on the sideline, and this ripple effect happened because one life, or you, took this initiative to lead. So, Michael, I'm gonna pass to you. What is one story that stands out to you about the impact of sports ministry in your church?
I was thinking about, we've had a few kids come through our program in recent years with disabilities. And it's just been so encouraging and so motivational. We had a kid who he aged out at the end of last season, but he played for 3 or 4 seasons. He was in a wheelchair. And, we accommodated for him to play. And it really spoke to not just his family, but the entire community, the family. And we would post videos of him playing with the family's permission, obviously. But, just the amount of feedback and positive feedback that we got is like, hey, this would never happen at school. This would never happen in a city league, and it's so cool that you guys are able to accommodate and let anybody play and let anybody experience the Upward ministry. And I think that's one thing that just kind of stands out and I think it's more personal to me because I have a son who is a traumatic brain injury survivor, and it's been years ago, but when he was like 5 years old, we started him in Upward, and Upward was just so accepting, and he loved basketball and he played to the best of his ability, and they just loved him and he loved Upward, and for that reason alone, some 22 years ago now, we've been involved in Upward since then. Just because of that program and how accepting they were of him. And we've tried to carry that same philosophy on all these years through the program, to be accepting of anybody, regardless of their ability or whatever. And that's had a huge impact on our ministry, because people see that and they're like, well, hey, this year we had a family with a kid with Down syndrome, and they wanted that person to play. and it ended up not working out. But we were there and we were ready to accommodate, and so I think that to me is one big impact story of just being accepting, how Upward is accepting and accommodating of anybody regardless of their ability.
And I love the fact that when you love on a parent's child,
Oh, yes.
you automatically earn that right for that
Yes.
parent to
Yes.
come, and they let their guard down, right? Because you care for their child. I don't want to pass this up. Do anybody else have a story you want to share before I ask the next question?
Yeah, I've got a great story that just happened this past year. We had a young girl sign up right before she started kindergarten to be a cheerleader for our Upward League. And her mom was super nervous about sending her daughter off to school for the first time and all the new freedoms that came with going to school and letting your little one out of your sight. And she was encouraged by some local moms, Facebook groups and community groups. Sign your daughter up for Upward. It's a great space for her to participate at the NAS. Well, unfortunately, a couple weeks in to being at school, the young girl was in line, wrong place, wrong time, and she got, unfortunately, she got assaulted by another student in line at school. It caused her so much trauma that she became mute. She would not speak at home. She would not speak in school. And they had diagnosed her as being emotionally and traumatized and mute. And so here went this little girl off to kindergarten, had this unfortunately traumatic experience, and she signed up to be a cheerleader. And so her mom continued to bring her to practices. The doctors were giving her therapy and stages of progression to help her develop and trying to get her to use her voice again. Not much success was happening, but they encouraged her to keep going to Upward cheerleading. Wouldn't you know how the Lord works and continues to heal? The young girl would start mouthing the Upward cheers. She would start mouthing the Bible verses she learned, not audibly voicing them, but before games started, she would participate by just mouthing them. Then she started building a relationship with her coach. She would stand only by her coach. And one time, halfway through the season, she's standing by the coach and her squad is out there cheering, and the coach hears the faintest of whispers. And in the middle of speaking a cheer and on an Upward Saturday, this young girl found her voice again some months later, almost half a year later. And what she was reciting were her Bible verse and her cheers. And they told her, don't quit sending her to that program. So that family wanted us to run it all year long. They had seen a miracle happen for their little girl. They took it to the school. She started using those to talk to her teacher again, and the Lord healed this young girl because of the program and the organization that was happening. She finally found a safe space to use her voice again. And we give all God the praise for that we got to be a part of seeing that firsthand.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That is a wonderful story. If that's not being the neighborhood church and stepping in a moment of need and creating a safe space, how many of us, I'm a parent, you guys, parents, we want a safe space, and that's it. Thank you for sharing that. Let me ask one more question in here. Let me ask about the family. This will be our last question on this section. And Clint, I think you were going to answer this one for me, is how has sports ministry impacted families as a whole? So we just saw, John, you shared that, where your story impacted the child, impacted the parents. She went back to school. It impacted her teachers, her friends at school. But what about you, Clint? How has your sports ministry impacted families as a whole, not just the kids who were there?
So if it's all right, I would like to take the kids almost out of it for a moment.
Do it, yeah.
talk about some families that were already in my church.
I love it.
And so when we began our sports ministry, there was one particular gentleman who refused to come to church. He said he had a relationship with God, but he would worship like out on the golf course or wherever he can connect some other way. And his wife faithfully was coming to church and praying that he would join her one day. So enter Upward Sports, and we now needed to recruit people who would be willing to help with the league. And he was like, I want in. And I was kind of like, well, I really want people who are vibrant Christians as my coaches, who are attending our church and whatever else. So I let him in kind of on the backside in helping with initially with our concession stand. And then he said, well, I want to help improve the fields, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And he just kept going and going and going. So it didn't take but a month or two of him really getting involved, where he came to church once for a special event we were doing. And a month later, he came again on a Sunday morning. And pretty soon, he had just totally turned his life around. And he became one of our biggest ambassadors, I guess would be the word, in bringing kids in. And it goes beyond our church, because he was somewhat estranged from his family, and now they were reconciling and a lot of other things going on. Fast forward, he ended up with cancer, and he's not able to participate anymore. But to watch through even that kind of a situation and seeing how marriages, even a couple of times where people have said, this has kind of saved our marriage, because it gave us something to be united around and reminded us of the importance. Like, we grew up in the church, but not, we were not consistently going. And then any given Upward Saturday, I mean, you can take any Saturday, if you were to drop by, we will see multi-generations. We'll see the future Upward players that are in strollers and stuff, and all the way up to the grandparents who are so excited to come in and cheer on. And so you really see the impact all the way through. It never ceases to amaze me that when we're doing our halftime devotional, our little game or whatever we have that kind of reminds people of why we're really there, that it seems like no one's listening. But how many people will later come to me and say, this program is so important in part because of what you all are doing with that. And so I just see this incredible change within families and healings. I could go on and tell you lots of other stories, but I like that one in particular because it doesn't relate to immediately the child. They did not have a child in the league. It goes beyond that.
I love that. That is so true. So let's go to our last topic. We could sit here and park on these stories because I love them. Our last topic is how sports or Upward Sports can support any church that can start up. You don't have to have this huge facility. You can have access to a field, a gym, parking lot. We have many church partners that rent from local schools that have this gym or this field space that is not being utilized. So all you really need is a willingness of a passionate leader like you guys that says, hey, I want to step forward and meet people where they are. So let me ask a question. What would you say to a church leader that might be listening here today who feels like maybe their church is too small to start sports and they're saying, it's just too small, I can't do it?
I would tell them that there's no such thing as too small. We talked in Upward's group, all the people that are part of Upward are just incredible in how well they'll support you, give you ideas on how you can succeed. And so it really does feel like you have a whole team with the Upward organization. So I would say that first. But if you have enough people in your church, who are willing, just a handful, who are willing to get it started, more and more people will come forward. I know we initially had a very big concern about the low number of people that we had who we thought would be involved. And then we also were very concerned with the size of our facilities for soccer. And we were able to overcome both of those and have a very successful program now, 12, 13 years. And so there's no excuse. There's no, you can do something.
I love that. Anybody else on it's too small, the facilities?
I think I don't know if this is unique to us, but it's a very encouraging thing for us. Is like, we're a small church. We have, I don't know how our upward program compares in size to most others for our size church, our size community, but we run around about 200 kids in our upward program. And I looked this year, and about 50 to 60% of our volunteers came from other churches or outside of our church. And I think that speaks to the power of the upward program, the upward ministry. Is like, we've had kids come in and play, and the parents see what upward's all about, and they want to be part of it. And then they, I want to coach, or I want to lead, or I want to work, I want to help. And then all of a sudden we've got, almost 2/3 of our volunteers are from outside of our church. And it's been a great connecting tool for our community. We had some issues in our community where churches didn't want to work together, and Upward actually has helped to break those barriers down and bring some churches together and work together. One other thing is, like, I love telling our Upward story because we just finished our 14th season a couple of weeks ago, but 14 years ago, when God impressed upon 2 women in our church to start an Upward ministry, and they had no idea what they were doing, but they knew that God told them to do it. And there was just 2 of them, and they both are just those high energy go-getter. If you need a cheerleader on your team, it's these 2 people, and they were going to do Upward, and so they got permission from the church, and they started this ministry. And the cool thing I like telling people is, like, it's impressive to me when God directs you to start a ministry, a basketball ministry, and you don't even have a gym. Mm. And so where are you going to play your games at? Well, they started off doing just a little multi-day camp, and they did it in the parking lot. And then they partnered with the school and used the school gym. And now for the last few years, we've partnered with one of the churches just a block away who has a gym, and they weren't using it. It was just sitting there empty. And we just called them one day and was like, hey, man, we would love to have our Upward games in your gym. And they're like, please come use this thing. And so it's built partnerships, and it's just a great tool. I love how Upward's working like that in our community.
That is faith in action.
Yeah,
taking
absolutely.
a step when you don't have the tool in front of you, but God calls you to something. How easy would it have been to say, well, God, there's no gym there, so I'm just not going to do it.
You're crazy. We can't have a basketball ministry. We don't have a gym.
That's right. Well, that is amazing.
Make a way.
That's right. That's right. I love that story. I want to ask one last question in this series, or this segment here, is how can churches make sure their sports ministry doesn't just bring people to this event, but it leads them into a deeper discipleship?
I think it starts with an emphasis on what Upward's all about, and that's sharing the gospel. And Clint mentioned the halftime devotionals, prioritizing things like the halftime devotionals and the practice devotionals, and having host commissioners and others like that their job is to walk around and just talk to people and connect with people and let people know that it is more than basketball and cheerleading, or whatever the sport is. It is a ministry. And and I tell them all the time when I do my halftime devotionals that, listen, the pom-poms and the basketball are just a tool to get you here. This 5 to 10 minutes while I'm doing the halftime devotional and we're doing these this is why you're here. The rest of it's just a tool to get you here. And I think that's a really important part, is making sure you emphasize and you're very intentional about those parts of the Upward ministry.
Yeah, Jesus called his disciples with 2 instructions. Come follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men. And when I consult other churches about starting church ministries, encourage them along the way, I often tell them a couple things. First off, sports ministry is going to bring the fish to you. There's no easier fishing than when the fish show up to you. And people are giving their best time of their free time, their best money. On church attendance, they may show up on average, it's saying now once a month. But on children's practice nights, they are not going to miss. On game days, they will make sure they are there. And so the other thing I tell them is when the fish are there, you have to bait your hook and put it out there. We can't be afraid to offend the fish. People know they're walking into churches, but we can't be afraid to offend them with the gospel and the good news of Christ. So we celebrate their kids. We share the stories of what they're learning and progressing, but we're unashamedly sharing Jesus Christ, because that's the hope for eternity beyond our league as well. And then in that, we encourage them to get connected. If they see the love that we're pouring in on a game day, we let them know that we have just as much prepared and in store for them during our worship times or our other gatherings, that they are welcome to be involved in a part of that we are planning for them to attend that as well. And so that process then of discipling really comes within your volunteers. Those are the people you're going to pour into. Those are the people you're going to build relationships with. And they're on the front lines, and they start owning the ministry of sports ministry themselves. And they'll champion that cause for years and years to come. As you are discipling them, they start discipling those that they're overseeing, whether as a coach or a concessions leader or wherever they're volunteering. So that's kind of our method that we encourage people to do. And the Lord has greatly blessed us because of the efforts. It's been a worthwhile investment with what He's entrusted us.
I love that. So if you're on here listening, I hope you're encouraged from these league directors, these sports ministers that are taking something as simple as a ball, right? And going into their community and inviting them, using sports as their invite for them to come back, to feel love, to feel this connection. Ultimately, we get the opportunity to share the gospel. If you're on here and you're part of Church of the Nazarene, I have an exciting offer for you, right? Incentive. We are in a partnership with you guys. And so if you go to upward.org/Church of the Nazarene, you can go on there and you can see that if you start sports ministry, we want to come along beside you. And because of this amazing partnership from Church of the Nazarene leadership, we're offering a $500 sports ministry startup grant to help you get this off the ground. Everybody, yay. Helps you get it off the ground. You can use it for scholarships. You could use it to buy basketballs. You can use it to purchase soccer goals, whatever you guys need to get started. That sports ministry grant is there for you because of your denomination and our partnership with them. So I want to say thank you for joining in. This is episode 3. I've had some great panelists over the past 3 episodes. You guys have been amazing. John, Michael, Clint, thank you for being on here.
Thank you.
So join in later on. I'll try to do some more episodes and bring on some more experts out in the field. You guys have a great afternoon.